Joining me here now on set is British-Palestinian surgeon Ghassan Abu-Sittah. Now, he worked for a month and a half in the Gaza Strip at the start of the war, saw for himself, obviously, the situation there. Thanks very much for coming in and talking to us. Just explain to us, first of all, what it was like working in the Gaza Strip when the war broke out.
The sheer scale of the bombing, even at the first week, we were getting 500 wounded every day in a hospital that had 600 beds. And so the feeling was akin to being trapped by a wave of tsunami, but that wave was of wounded and killed.
Before the war broke out, bearing in mind what happened in October of 2023 and the Hamas attack, did people have any inclination of what that scale would become, the response from Israel?
So I was there in the summer on a training program, and the siege that had lasted for 16 years had really gotten to the point where people saw no future. There was a sense that the world had forgotten Gaza, the sense that there was political movement in the rest of the region, and that the world had acclimatized itself with the idea of this continuous siege. And so the level of desperation was very high. When I went in on the 9th of October, I thought this was going to be a more vicious version of the 2014 war, but nothing like what we saw. And even when I left at the end of November, there was no way that I could even envisage that this would last for 15 months, unchecked, even though it was being filmed and shown on people's phones and TVs all the time.
So what's it been like then being out of Gaza, having been inside, watching what's happened over the last year?
It has been very difficult getting news of doctors and colleagues who've been killed by the Israelis. I had a trainee of mine who was killed in Shifa Hospital, another colleague who was tortured to death, the head of orthopedic surgery at Shifa, other doctors who had been arrested and have disappeared, the last of whom was Dr. Ghassan Abu-Sittah, the director of Kamal Udwan Hospital. So, and as reported by a lot of Western media, doctors of Palestinian origin were no longer allowed by the Israelis to enter into Gaza. And so you were stuck outside trying to find out what has happened to your friends and watching with horror this killing that has left now 16% of Gaza's population dead.
And throughout that conflict, of course, there were a lot of accusations from the Israelis that Hamas were using hospital sites as places to hide, I suppose, and places where they could gather because they thought it would be safer. I mean, did you see any evidence of that, and do you think that is likely?
There was absolutely no evidence. I was in Ahli Baptist Hospital when the Israelis fired a missile at it, killing 480 people. I was at Shifa repeatedly during that war. Nobody was using that hospital except for medical care. And the narrative that has allowed the Israelis to destroy 33 out of 36 hospitals, there's nothing left of the Gazan health system. The challenge facing us now is how do we rebuild from scratch a health system that's had all of its hospitals destroyed, over 1,000 doctors and nurses killed, and currently in Israeli prison, 450 nurses and doctors.
What are your hopes today as the ceasefire's been announced?
Our hope is to help the Palestinian people rebuild their lives, to heal their wounds. And something as basic as there's around 10,000 to 15,000 bodies under the rubble, to find their loved ones and bury them. All of this, the scale of the agony and the heartache, will start to unravel in details that we haven't even imagined.
And where can the Gazans and the international community as well start with that process? Because it's going to take years, isn't it?
Absolutely. Immediately, we need food. There has been a famine. Israel has been preventing aid from getting in. We need shelter. People's houses have been destroyed. 90% of homes in Gaza have been destroyed. And we need the health system. We need the entry of field hospitals in large numbers to treat the Ministry of Health is saying there are 13,000 wounded who need immediate care.
Good to talk to you on the programme today. Thanks very much for coming in. Ghassan Abu-Sittah, a British-Palestinian surgeon who was working in Gaza then when the war broke out in October of 2023. Thanks very much.